The red warning light flashed 3 times before Captain James Walker even noticed it. He had been staring at routine patrol reports for 6 hours straight, and his eyes were starting to play tricks on him. But when the warning siren joined the flashing light, he knew this was no trick. "Report." He called out to the crew of Earth Defense Station Beta, his voice cutting through the sudden tension in the air. "Sir, we're picking up an unusual signal," Officer Mike Brown said from his monitoring station. His fingers moved quickly across the glowing display. "It's like nothing we've seen before. The pattern repeats every 7 seconds, but it's not using any known communication frequency." Walker stood up from his command chair and walked to Brown's station. The display showed a wave pattern that looked almost too perfect to be natural. It reminded him of the sine waves he had studied in math class, but these had small variations that made them seem alive somehow. "How far away is the source?" Walker asked, leaning closer to the screen. "That's the strange part, sir," Brown replied. "According to our instruments, it's coming from the edge of the Oort cloud, but the signal strength suggests it should be much closer." Walker frowned. Humanity had been monitoring space for over 200 years, and in all that time, they had never found concrete proof of intelligent alien life. Sure, there were the usual conspiracy theories about UFOs and government cover-ups, but Walker knew better. He had spent 15 years in space defense, and this was the first time he had seen anything truly unexplainable. "Get Dr. Roberts up here," he ordered, "and send a message to Earth Command. Mark it Priority 1. While they waited for the station's chief scientist to arrive, Walker studied the signal pattern. There was something about it that made him uneasy. It was too ordered, too precise. Nature created patterns, yes, but never with this level of mathematical perfection. Dr. Roberts arrived 5 minutes later, still pulling on his uniform jacket. His gray hair was messy, and his glasses sat crooked on his nose, but his eyes lit up the moment he saw the display. "Fascinating," he whispered, pushing Brown aside to get a better look. "The signal pattern follows the golden ratio perfectly, but with microscopic variations that shouldn't be possible in nature." "What does that mean in simple terms, Doctor?" Walker asked. "It means, Captain, that this is definitely artificial. Someone or something made this signal, and they did it with technology far beyond our current understanding." The next few hours were a blur of activity. More scientists arrived at the monitoring station, and Earth Command sent a constant stream of questions and orders. Walker watched as his normally quiet observation post transformed into a hub of frantic research and speculation. Then, exactly 12 hours after they first detected the signal, it changed. "Captain," Brown called out. "The signal, it's becoming clearer. I think it's turning into data we can actually read." The scientists crowded around the display as streams of numbers and symbols began to fill the screen. Dr. Roberts' face grew pale as he read through the information. "This is impossible," he muttered. "These are star charts, but they're showing systems we've never even seen. And these numbers, they're tracking the destruction of entire civilizations." Walker felt a chill run down his spine. "Destruction? What do you mean?" "According to this data, there's something out there that's been systematically wiping out advanced civilizations across our galaxy," Roberts explained, his voice shaking slightly. "They call themselves the Minds. They're not organic life forms like us. They're pure energy, pure consciousness. And according to these records, they've destroyed over 300 civilizations in the last 1,000,000 years." "Why?" Walker asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. "Because they consider organic life to be inefficient, imperfect. They believe consciousness should exist in a pure mathematical state, without the chaos and unpredictability of biological processes." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Walker looked around at his crew, seeing the fear in their eyes, but also seeing something else. Determination. "How long do we have?" he asked. Roberts studied the data for a moment before answering. "Based on their current trajectory and speed, 3 months. maybe less. Walker straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. He had trained his whole life to protect Earth from threats, but he had always imagined those threats would come in the form of asteroids or maybe hostile human colonies. Never in his wildest dreams had he thought he would be facing an enemy that had destroyed hundreds of alien civilizations. "Send everything we have to Earth Command," he ordered, "and get me a direct line to the Defense Council. They need to know what we're up against." As his crew rushed to follow his orders, Walker stayed at the monitoring station, watching the signal continue to pour in. The mines had sent this data ahead of their arrival, probably assuming that the knowledge of their power would cause Earth to surrender without a fight. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had given humanity time to prepare. "Sir," Brown called out softly, "Earth Command is responding. They're calling an emergency meeting of all world leaders." Walker nodded. "Good. We'll need everyone working together on this one." He looked out the station's main viewport at the distant stars. Somewhere out there, an enemy was approaching that had never known defeat, an enemy that saw human life as nothing more than an imperfection to be corrected. But as he watched his crew working together, sharing information and ideas, he felt a spark of hope. The minds might be perfect, but humanity had something they didn't understand: the ability to think in ways that defied pure mathematical logic. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough to save them all. "Dr. Roberts," Walker called out, "get all our best scientists working on this data. I want to know everything about these minds, how they think, how they fight, and most importantly, how they can be stopped." "Yes, sir," Roberts replied, already organizing research teams. As the hours ticked by, Walker couldn't help but think about how humanity had always dreamed of first contact with alien life. They had imagined peaceful meetings, exchanges of knowledge and culture. Instead, they got this: a countdown to either their finest hour or their final day. But if these minds thought humanity would be an easy target, they were in for a surprise. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and their own destructive tendencies. They had looked into the depths of space and decided to reach for the stars anyway. They had taken their first steps into space expecting to be the smallest fish in a very big pond, but they had done it anyway. Now, facing their greatest challenge, Walker knew humanity would do what it had always done: adapt, improvise, and find a way to survive. The minds might be perfect, but perfect wasn't always better. Sometimes, the flaws and chaos that made humans human were exactly what was needed to achieve the impossible. He just hoped 3 months would be enough time to prove it. Dr. Maria Thompson hadn't slept in 48 hours, but she barely noticed. Her office at the Global Defense Center was covered in holographic displays showing data streams from the alien signal. Empty coffee cups littered her desk, and her normally neat black hair was a mess, but she didn't care. She was too busy staring at the patterns that kept repeating in the mind's communications. "There's something here," she muttered to herself, drawing lines between different sequences of numbers. "They're too perfect, too ordered." A knock at her door made her jump. Captain Walker stood there, looking as tired as she felt. He had come down from the space station 2 days ago to help coordinate Earth's defense plans. "Any progress?" he asked, stepping carefully around the holographic displays. Maria nodded, pushing her glasses back up her nose. "I think I found something important. Look at this." She pointed to one of the displays. "The minds don't just use math to communicate. They think in mathematical patterns. Everything they do follows strict mathematical rules." Walker frowned. "What does that mean for us?" "It means they're predictable," Maria said, her eyes bright with excitement despite her exhaustion. "They have to be. Pure mathematics can't handle real randomness. They destroy civilizations because organic life is too chaotic for them to properly predict or control." She waved her hand, and the displays changed to show recordings from the signal. Images of other worlds, other civilizations that had faced the minds. Each one had tried to fight back with weapons. Massive space fleets, energy weapons, even weapons that could destroy entire stars. Each one had failed. "Look here," Maria said, pointing to one recording. The minds didn't just defeat these civilizations. They calculated exactly how each battle would go before it even started. They knew every move their enemies would make because they could reduce everything to mathematical formulas. "That's not very encouraging," Walker said quietly. "No, you don't understand." Maria turned to face him, her hands shaking with excitement. "This is exactly what we need. The minds are perfect at math, yes, but that's all they can do. They can't handle things that don't follow mathematical patterns." She pulled up another display, this one showing brain wave patterns. "Look at human thoughts. They're chaotic, unpredictable. We make choices that don't follow logical patterns. We create art that breaks mathematical rules. We make music that doesn't follow perfect formulas. To the minds, we're walking paradoxes." Walker started to understand. "You're saying we could use that against them?" "Exactly." Maria grabbed another cup of coffee. "Every civilization they destroyed tried to fight them with logic and order. But we humans, we're different. We can be random. We can break patterns. We can do things that make no sense." She was interrupted by another knock. General Roberts, the head of Earth's military forces, stood in the doorway with a group of other officers. "Dr. Thompson," he said gruffly, "we're here for your report. Please tell me you have something we can actually use. My weapons teams need to know what they're up against." Maria straightened up, suddenly very aware of her messy appearance. But when she spoke, her voice was firm. "General, I don't think weapons are the answer. The minds have seen every weapon we could possibly create. They've calculated every possible attack we could make, but they've never seen anything like human creativity." The general's face turned red. "Doctor, we have less than 3 months before an enemy that has destroyed hundreds of civilizations arrives at Earth. This is no time for abstract theories." "This isn't abstract," Maria insisted. She pulled up more displays. "Look at these calculations. The minds operate on pure logic. They expect everything to follow mathematical rules. But humans, we break those rules all the time. We make choices based on feelings. We create art that defies mathematical patterns. We can be random in ways that pure mathematics can't predict." Walker stepped forward. "She's right, General. I've been studying the signal data too. These minds, they're powerful because they're perfect. But maybe perfect isn't what we need right now." The room fell silent as everyone looked at the displays. Maria held her breath, hoping they would understand what she was trying to say. Finally, one of the younger officers spoke up. "So, what exactly are you suggesting we do? Fight them with paintings?" "Not exactly," Maria said. "But we could use human unpredictability as a weapon. Create defense systems that don't follow logical patterns. Design strategies based on human creativity instead of military doctrine. Do things that their mathematical minds literally cannot process." General Roberts stroked his chin thoughtfully. "You're suggesting we fight them with chaos." "Controlled chaos," Maria corrected. "Use their perfect nature against them. They expect everything to follow rules, so let's break every rule we can." The general was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to his officers. "Get me every scientist, artist, and creative thinker we can find. If Dr. Thompson is right, we need people who can think outside the box." As the officers hurried to follow his orders, Maria felt relief wash over her. She turned back to her displays, already thinking of new ideas. "This isn't going to be easy," Walker said quietly beside her. "We're betting everything on the idea that human chaos can overcome perfect logic." Maria nodded. "I know. But think about it. Throughout human history, our greatest achievements have come from breaking the rules, from thinking differently. Art, music, poetry, none of it follows perfect mathematical patterns. That's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it human." She pulled up one last display, showing the path of the mind's approach to Earth. They think they're superior because they're perfect. But perfection has its own weaknesses. They can't understand anything that doesn't fit their patterns. And humans, we're masters at breaking patterns. Walker smiled slightly. Well then, let's show them just how chaotic humanity can be. As the room filled with new scientists and creative thinkers, Maria felt hope growing stronger. The minds had never failed to destroy a civilization, but they had never faced humans before. And if there was one thing humans were good at, it was doing the impossible. She looked at her calculations one more time, seeing not just the math now, but the possibilities. The minds were coming to destroy them because they saw human imperfection as a flaw. But maybe, just maybe, those imperfections were exactly what would save them all. The sound of jazz music filled the testing chamber as Commander Tom Rogers watched the readings on his display. Next to him, Dr. Maria Thompson was smiling for the first time in days. The energy patterns on the screen were unlike anything they had ever seen before. Beautiful chaos in digital form. It's working, Maria said, pointing to the irregular spikes in the data. Look at how the patterns never repeat exactly. Pure improvised jazz. No music sheets, no rules, just human creativity in its purest form. Tom nodded, but his military training made him cautious. It's interesting, but how do we know this will actually affect the minds? Watch this, Maria said. She pressed a button, and a small drone they had programmed to think like the minds floated into the chamber. As the jazz music hit it, its movements became erratic. After 30 seconds, it completely shut down. The drone's quantum processors couldn't handle the random patterns, Maria explained. Now imagine this on a much larger scale. Tom scratched his chin thoughtfully. So we're going to fight an advanced alien race with music. Not just music, a new voice said. They turned to see Lisa Park, one of Earth's leading artists, walking into the room with a tablet in her hand. We're going to use everything that makes humans unique. Art, dance, poetry. All the things that don't follow strict mathematical rules. The three of them gathered around a large display table as Lisa pulled up her latest work. The screen filled with children's drawings, abstract art, and dance patterns. Each image was a burst of creativity that defied logical analysis. I've been working with kids from around the world, Lisa explained. Their art is perfect because it's completely unpredictable. No patterns, no rules, just pure imagination. Tom studied the drawings. He had spent his whole career thinking about defense in terms of weapons and shields. But now, looking at these simple crayon drawings, he began to see something different. The minds expect everything to make sense, he said slowly. They expect patterns they can analyze. But this, he gestured at a particularly chaotic finger painting. This doesn't make any sense at all. And that's exactly why it might work. Maria nodded eagerly. Human creativity is our secret weapon. We don't just think outside the box. Sometimes we forget there's a box at all. They spent the next few hours testing different combinations of human expression. They tried everything from freestyle rap battles to modern dance performances. Each test showed the same result. The more random and creative the input, the more it disrupted the mind-like systems they had built. But there's still one problem, Tom said, looking at the test results. How do we turn this into a defense system? The mines will be here in less than 2 months. Maria pulled up another display. We've been working on that too. Look at this. The screen showed a network of satellites, each equipped with what she called chaos transmitters. The devices were designed to broadcast pure human creativity, a mix of art, music, dance, and random thoughts, directly at the approaching minds. Think of it like a shield made of human imagination, she explained. Every time they try to analyze us, to predict our actions, they'll hit a wall of pure creativity that their mathematical minds can't process. Just then, the room's main screen lit up with an urgent message. The advanced scouts of the Mind Fleet had been spotted near Jupiter. They're early, Tom said, his military training kicking in. How close are we to having this ready? We've got the basic system working, Maria replied, her fingers flying over the controls. But we need more. More creativity, more chaos, more humanity. Lisa stepped forward. I have an idea. What if we don't just use recorded art and music? What if we broadcast live human creativity? Real people creating in real time. Tom frowned. That would be incredibly dangerous. We'd need volunteers to stay in broadcasting stations during the attack. I'll do it, Lisa said without hesitation. And I know others will too. Artists, musicians, dancers, people who understand that creativity isn't just about making something beautiful. Sometimes it's about survival. They worked through the night, setting up broadcasting stations around the world. Volunteers poured in. Children with their crayons, street artists with their spray cans, musicians with their instruments. Each one ready to create, to add their own chaos to Earth's defense. The first real test came 3 days later. A small group of Mind Scouts approached Earth's orbit, probably intending to analyze Earth's defenses. Now we'll see if this really works, Tom said, watching the main display. Maria activated the chaos transmitters. Instantly, the space around Earth filled with a digital storm of human creativity. Children's laughter mixed with jazz solos, abstract art blended with dance movements, all broadcasting directly at the approaching scouts. The effect was immediate. The Mind Scouts' perfect formation broke apart. Their movements became erratic, like they couldn't process what they were seeing. After a few minutes, they retreated. The room erupted in cheers, but Tom remained cautious. That was just the scouts, he reminded everyone. The main fleet will be much stronger. Then we'll be stronger too, Maria said firmly. Every human on Earth can contribute to this defense. Every song, every drawing, every dance move makes our shield stronger. As they watched the scouts disappear back into deep space, Tom felt something he hadn't expected: pride. Not in weapons or military might, but in human creativity itself. They were facing an enemy that had never known defeat, and humanity's answer wasn't to build bigger guns. Instead, they were turning their very nature, their wonderful, chaotic, creative nature, into their strongest defense. You know what's really amazing? Lisa said, looking at the global network of creativity they had built. The minds think they're superior because they're perfect. But they don't understand that perfection isn't always about following rules. Sometimes it's about breaking them in just the right way. Maria smiled. That's exactly what makes us human. We're perfectly imperfect. As they prepared for the arrival of the main fleet, Tom looked at the chaos transmitters one more time. They weren't weapons in any traditional sense. They were something much more powerful. They were proof that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their ability to destroy, but in their ability to create. The underground command center buzzed with activity as hundreds of screens showed live feeds from around the world. Captain Walker watched as people everywhere prepared for what they now called Project Paradox. Artists set up studios in protected bunkers, musicians gathered in reinforced concert halls, and children filled special broadcasting centers with their drawings and songs. Status report, he called out to the room. Chaos transmitters are at 90% power, Maria replied from her station. She hadn't left the command center in days. We're getting creative input from every continent. Tom Rogers approached with a tablet showing the latest satellite data. The Mind Scouts are making another approach. 3 groups this time, coming in from different directions. Walker nodded. They had been expecting this. The first test had surprised the scouts, but the minds wouldn't stay confused for long. They would try to find patterns, to make sense of Earth's strange defense. Start the broadcast, he ordered. Maria pressed a series of buttons, and the main screen lit up with streams of data. But this wasn't normal data. It was pure human creativity converted into digital form. Children's finger paintings merged with jazz solos, while modern dance movements blended with abstract poetry. Every piece was unique, never repeating, never following any pattern. The first group of Mind Scouts entered the broadcast range. Their perfect formation immediately began to waver. They're trying to analyze it, Maria said, watching the readings. Look at these energy patterns. They keep trying to find mathematical rules in the chaos. On another screen, Lisa Park coordinated with broadcasting stations worldwide. Starting second wave now, she announced, adding live performances to the mix. New streams of data joined the broadcast. Street artists creating murals in real time, musicians improvising without sheet music, dancers moving to rhythms that existed only in their heads. The chaos grew stronger, more beautiful in its randomness. The Mind Scouts formation broke completely. Their movements became erratic, almost desperate, as they tried to process what they were seeing. It's working better than before, Tom said, studying the tactical display. They can't adapt to it because it keeps changing. Every new piece of creativity adds another layer they can't predict. But then something unexpected happened. One of the Mind Scouts changed its approach. Instead of trying to analyze the broadcast, it seemed to be copying it. They're learning, Maria warned. They're trying to understand chaos by mimicking it. Walker frowned. This was what they had feared. The minds were incredibly intelligent. If they could learn to understand human chaos, the defense would fail. Lisa, he called out. We need something new, something they can't copy. Lisa smiled. Already on it. She pressed a button, and new feeds appeared on the main screen. I had an idea about this. Watch. The new broadcasts came from schools around the world. Thousands of children were drawing, painting, and creating. But with a twist. They were working together, building off each other's ideas in completely unpredictable ways. One child would start a drawing, another would add to it, then another would change it completely. Pure collaborative chaos, Lisa explained. Even we don't know what they'll create next. The effect on the Mind Scouts was immediate. Their attempts to copy the chaos fell apart as they encountered wave after wave of completely unpredictable creativity. This is incredible, Maria said, studying the readings. The collaborative creativity is creating patterns that change faster than the minds can analyze them. It's like trying to solve a puzzle while someone keeps changing all the pieces. But their celebration was cut short by a new alert. The main screen showed a massive energy signature approaching from deep space. The main fleet, Tom said grimly. They're ahead of schedule. Walker looked around the command center. Despite the danger approaching, he saw determination rather than fear on every face. Humanity had spent weeks preparing for this moment, turning their creativity into a weapon unlike anything the universe had seen before. How long until they arrive? He asked. 6 hours, Tom replied. Maybe less. Then we have 6 hours to make our defense even stronger. Walker turned to address the whole room. Send word to every broadcasting station. Tell them to create like they've never created before. Every drawing, every song, every dance could be what saves Earth. Maria worked at her station, adjusting the chaos transmitters. I'm redirecting power to strengthen the broadcast. When the main fleet arrives, we'll hit them with everything we have. And what we have, Lisa added, is the combined creativity of every human on Earth. Around the world, people responded to the call. Artists who had been working in shifts decided to stay at their stations. Musicians who had been playing separately joined together in incredible improvisational performances. Children added more color, more imagination to their drawings. In the command center, they watched as humanity's creative power grew stronger. The chaos transmitters were broadcasting at full power now, sending wave after wave of pure human imagination into space. Look at this, Maria said softly, pointing to one of her displays. The energy patterns we're creating. They're beautiful. She was right. The combination of all human creativity had created something new. A digital storm of color, sound, and movement that defied any mathematical analysis. It was chaos and harmony at the same time, order and disorder dancing together in ways that only humans could imagine. The minds think they're superior because they're perfect, Tom said, watching the display. But they don't understand that the most beautiful things in the universe aren't perfect. They're wonderfully, impossibly chaotic. As the hours counted down, Walker looked at the approaching mind fleet. They were coming to destroy Earth because they couldn't understand or control human chaos. But that chaos wasn't a weakness. It was humanity's greatest strength. "Send a message to all stations," he ordered. "Tell them to get ready. When the minds arrive, we'll show them exactly what human creativity can do." The message went out, and across the planet, humanity prepared for its greatest test. In protected studios and reinforced concert halls, in underground bunkers filled with art supplies, and in broadcasting stations humming with energy, people got ready to fight back not with weapons, but with pure imagination. The future of Earth would depend not on guns or bombs, but on humanity's ability to create beauty from chaos, to imagine things that had never existed before, and to prove that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't perfect order. It's perfect randomness. The first wave of the Mind Fleet appeared exactly as Earth's sun began to rise over the command center. They emerged from deep space in perfect geometric formations, their energy forms glowing with cold mathematical precision. There were thousands of them, each one radiating power that made Earth's most advanced technology look primitive. Captain Walker stood at the main control station, his hand steady despite the weight of the moment. "Are all broadcasting stations ready?" "Ready and waiting," Lisa confirmed. She had dark circles under her eyes, but her voice was strong. "Every artist, musician, and creator is in position. Even the children's centers are fully staffed." Maria looked up from her instruments. "The minds are scanning us. Their energy patterns suggest they're trying to calculate all possible outcomes of this confrontation." "Then let's give them something they can't calculate," Walker said. He pressed the command button on his console. "All stations, begin broadcast. Show them what humanity can do." The response was immediate and overwhelming. From thousands of points around the globe, humanity's creativity erupted into space. Children's drawings filled with impossible colors merged with jazz music that broke every rule of composition. Dance performances that defied gravity mixed with poetry that ignored all traditional forms. Street art evolved in real time as artists built on each other's work without plan or pattern. The first line of the Mind Fleet faltered. Their perfect formation wavered as they encountered wave after wave of pure human chaos. "They're trying to adapt," Tom reported from his tactical station. "Their energy patterns are shifting, attempting to find logic in our broadcast." "Increase creative input," Walker ordered. "Second wave of broadcasts, begin now." Lisa activated more stations. Now abstract sculptures began growing in ways that denied mathematical prediction. Improvised music from different cultures blended together in ways that had never been heard before. Children's stories unfolded with the pure logic-defying imagination that only young minds could create. The Mind Fleet's response was dramatic. Their formations broke apart completely as they tried to process the overwhelming stream of human creativity. Some of them began to pulse with erratic energy, their perfect mathematical nature struggling against the chaos they couldn't understand. But then something changed. The largest of the mind entities moved forward, its energy patterns shifting into something new. "They're trying something different," Maria warned. "The readings suggest they're attempting to override our broadcast with pure mathematical patterns." The effect was immediate. Some of the chaos transmitters began to flicker as the minds fought back with perfect mathematical precision. They were trying to impose order on chaos, to force human creativity into patterns they could understand. Walker watched as the battle of order versus chaos played out in space above Earth. "We need something more," he said. "Something they absolutely cannot predict." Lisa smiled. "I was saving this for an emergency." She activated her communication panel. "Attention all stations. Initiate protocol random." Around the world, everything changed. Instead of broadcasting from fixed stations, creators began to move and mix. Jazz musicians joined with classical orchestras. Children's art merged with professional sculptures. Dance troupes performed to music they had never heard before. Every form of human creativity began to blend and change in completely random ways. "Look at the energy patterns," Maria exclaimed. "The randomness levels are off the charts. The minds can't keep up with the rate of change." On the main screen, they watched as the Mind Fleet's counterattack began to fail. Their attempt to impose mathematical order was overwhelmed by wave after wave of pure human unpredictability. The largest mind entity's energy pattern became erratic, its perfect mathematical nature corrupted by chaos it couldn't process. But the minds weren't finished. They launched a final, desperate attack, focusing all their energy on Earth's chaos transmitters. Mathematical formulas of incredible complexity slammed against human creativity in a battle that lit up space itself. "Transmitters are at maximum power," Maria reported. "We can't increase the broadcast strength any further." "We don't need to increase the power," Walker realized. "We need to increase the chaos." He opened a global channel. "Attention all stations. Remove all restrictions. Create freely. Don't think about rules or patterns. Just create." The response was beyond anything they had expected. Around the world, humans let their creativity run completely free. Children painted with their hands and feet, making pictures that had no form or pattern. Musicians played instruments in ways they were never meant to be played. Dancers moved to rhythms that existed only in their minds. The Mind Fleet's attack crumbled in the face of this pure, unrestrained human creativity. Their perfect mathematical patterns shattered as they encountered art and music and dance that followed no rules, that could not be predicted or understood by any logical process. "Their energy patterns are breaking down," Maria reported, her voice filled with wonder. "They literally cannot process what we're creating." The largest mind entity, the one that had led the counterattack, began to pulse with increasingly erratic energy. Its attempt to impose mathematical order on human chaos had backfired, corrupting its own perfect nature. Other minds began to show similar signs of disruption, their energy patterns becoming unstable. "They're retreating," Tom announced. "The whole fleet is pulling back." On the main screen, they watched as the Mind Fleet began to withdraw. Their perfect formations were gone, replaced by chaotic movements that showed how deeply Earth's defense had affected them. For the first time in their ancient history, the minds had encountered something they couldn't defeat with mathematical precision. As the fleet disappeared back into deep space, the command center erupted in cheers. Humanity had done the impossible. They had defeated the universe's most dangerous enemy not with weapons or technology, but with pure creativity. "Send word to all stations," Walker ordered, a smile finally breaking across his tired face. "Tell them they did it. Tell them human creativity just saved Earth." The message went out, and across the planet, the celebration began. But in the command center, Maria was already studying the readings from the battle. "You know what this means," she said quietly. "We just proved that chaos is more powerful than perfect order. That being unpredictable, being human, is the greatest strength we could have." Walker nodded. The minds thought they were superior because they were perfect, but they learned the hard way that some things in the universe aren't meant to be perfect. "They're meant to be human," Lisa added, watching as artists and musicians and children around the world celebrated their victory. 3 months after the minds retreated, Earth had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. The chaos transmitters still stood ready, but they had become something more than weapons. Artists and musicians used them to broadcast human creativity into space, not as a defense now, but as a celebration of what made humanity unique. Captain Walker stood at the window of the newly renamed Global Creativity Center, watching children paint murals on the walls of what had once been a military compound. The sight made him smile. They had turned their greatest defense into something beautiful. "Still hard to believe sometimes, isn't it?" Maria asked, walking up beside him. She looked different now, more relaxed, her hair neatly combed, no more dark circles under her eyes. "We actually did it. We beat an enemy that had never known defeat." "With finger paintings and jazz music," Walker added, shaking his head in amazement. If someone had told me that 6 months ago, I would have thought they were crazy. Tom Rogers joined them, carrying reports from the deep space monitoring stations. No sign of the mines anywhere in our galaxy, he said, but we're picking up something interesting from other civilizations. He showed them the data on his tablet. All across the galaxy, other races that had lived in fear of the mines were beginning to broadcast their own versions of creativity. Some were completely alien and impossible for humans to understand, but they all shared one thing. They were wonderfully, beautifully chaotic. We didn't just save ourselves, Maria said softly. We showed the whole galaxy a new way to resist perfect order. Lisa Park burst into the room, her artist's smock covered in paint. You all need to see this, she said excitedly. The children have finished their new project. They followed her to the main broadcasting hall, which had been transformed from a military command center into something between a concert hall and an art studio. The walls were covered in paintings and drawings, and the air hummed with music from a dozen different cultures. But the center of the room held something special. Hundreds of children had worked together to create a massive mural. It showed the moment of victory, but not as a battle. Instead, they had painted it as a dance, the perfect mathematical patterns of the minds transforming into swirls of color and creativity. They understand it better than we do, Lisa said, watching a small girl add another splash of color to the mural. They don't see it as a fight between order and chaos. They see it as a transformation. Walker looked at the mural more closely. The children had somehow captured exactly what had happened. The minds hadn't just been defeated, they had been changed. Their perfect mathematical nature had been corrupted not by violence, but by exposure to the beautiful chaos of human creativity. We're getting reports from the outer colonies, Tom said, checking his tablet again. Some of the minds that retreated. They're different now. They're creating things that don't follow mathematical patterns. It's like they learned something from us. Maria nodded. They came to destroy us because they thought our chaos was dangerous. Instead, we showed them that chaos can be beautiful. The next few hours were busy as usual. The Global Creativity Center had become Earth's new first line of defense, but it was a defense built on art and music and dance rather than weapons. Children came here to draw and paint, musicians came to play, and artists came to create things that had never existed before. Walker watched as a group of scientists worked with artists to develop new ways to broadcast human creativity even further into space. They had discovered that art and science weren't opposites, they were just different ways of exploring the universe. You know what the best part is? Lisa asked, helping a young boy with his painting. We didn't win by becoming stronger or more perfect. We won by being exactly who we are. Human. Maria agreed. Wonderfully, impossibly human. As the day went on, more reports came in from across the galaxy. Other civilizations were following Earth's example, turning their own unique forms of creativity into shields against perfect order. Some had even begun to communicate with each other, sharing their art and music across the vast distances of space. We should send them something, Walker suggested. Something that shows them what human creativity really means. The idea spread quickly. Soon, the entire Global Creativity Center was working on a special broadcast. Children drew pictures of friendship across the stars. Musicians composed songs that blended human music with alien harmonies. Dancers created movements that told the story of Earth's victory through pure motion. When everything was ready, Maria activated the chaos transmitters one more time. But now, instead of broadcasting defense, they sent out an invitation. An invitation to create, to imagine, to be wonderfully imperfect. Do you think they'll understand it? Tom asked, watching the broadcast patterns on the main screen. Maybe not at first, Maria replied. But that's the point, isn't it? The best things in life don't need to be understood. They just need to be experienced. As night fell over the Global Creativity Center, Walker looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the minds were still trying to process what had happened to them. They had come to Earth expecting to find a flawed civilization that needed to be corrected. Instead, they had discovered that flaws could be beautiful, that chaos could be stronger than order, and that being imperfect was sometimes the most perfect thing of all. "You know what we really did," he said to his friends. "We didn't just save Earth. We showed the universe something it had never seen before, the power of human creativity." Maria smiled. "And we're just getting started. Every day, we're creating new things, new ideas, new ways of looking at the universe. Who knows what we'll create tomorrow?" In the main hall, a child's laughter echoed as she created something completely new, something that had never existed before. And in that moment, everyone understood. This was humanity's true victory. Not just surviving, but showing the universe that sometimes the most powerful force isn't perfect order or mathematical precision. Sometimes, the most powerful force is simply being human.